This is the intro song.
Hello, we saved you a seat. Welcome to Train Station at 8, episode 22. This is a podcast about video game music. I am your host, Bryan Kelly, and today we're going to be talking about a specific song, and that song is NiGHTS and Reala from Nights into Dreams, composed by Naofumi Hataya, or however you accurately actually pronounce that name, but I'm not a linguist. Joining me today are a lot of awesome people, including my brother, who is not a linguist, Stephen Kelly. Hi, Stephen.
But I am an awesome person.
That is actually up in debate right now, but I'm going to go on a yes.
Okay. I am skeptical here.
Stephen, who else is joining us today? You put this panel together?
Well, I was lucky enough to rope 3 strangers into this conversation with us, and now they're already becoming our best friends.
Oh, yes.
And they are all from OverClocked University, which is a very neat band over from OC Remix. In case you don't know, OverClocked Remix is a site full of video game music.
Right.
It is all kinds of remixes from all kinds of people and all kinds of games. These 3 radical people contribute to it and are part of the band, as I mentioned before, OverClocked University, that is attributed to it. And the first one I'd like to introduce is Steve-O, a.k.a. Level 99. Hello, Steve-O. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Just waiting for this train to go by.
I noticed your name is very similar to mine.
Yes, actually, my birth name is Steven with a PH as well, so.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's
cool. So cool, though. I wonder if
yeah, Steve-O is my
Bryan.
Well, the problem is Steve-O was a nickname that evolved from middle school through high school, and then when I turned like 20, 21 years old, I got tired of it and wanted to go back to the regular one, but too many people are already calling me Steve-O, I kind of got stuck with it.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm already stuck calling you Steve-O. I couldn't imagine calling you anything else. Not like Level 99 or something. That'd be crazy.
Call me Bethany.
Well, okay, we can do that.
Bethany is actually also Level 99 on
I'm gonna eat my words the entire episode tonight.
Yes.
You do that, Bethany. And also, Stephen,
you hear the other people attempting to talk as Steve-O yells over them. The first one is Andrew, who is also known as OA over at OC Remix. Hello, Andrew.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Thank you for coming to join us.
This has been an exciting opportunity.
I'm glad to hear it. And lastly, but not leastly, rounding out the panel, we have Dia, also known as DragonAvenger on OC Remix. Greetings and welcome to you as well.
Hello.
We are extremely happy to have all 3 of you here. We've been trying to get someone from OC Remix on for quite a while, and I think we finally succeeded.
This will be great. Something I wanted to mention is this is just the 2nd episode of Season 2 for Train Station. We've been switching up our format. We used to do kind of an open discussion based around 8 questions, and now we are choosing to do it on a single song and really go in-depth on that. We've put out one so far, and we really enjoyed it, So,
interestingly enough, you guys are kind of our guest test subjects for our new format. We've never done this with other people in the room,
we
so
experiment
hopefully...
humanely, though, so it's all good.
Appreciate it.
For the most part.
Sweet, we're like a focus group, only we're not a focus group.
And we're not paying you anything.
Oh.
It's complicated.
Yes. Now, a segment that actually has carried over from Season 1 is What Have You Been Listening To? And this is just a chance to talk about any music we've recently been listening to. Video game or otherwise. So, Bethany.
Andrew, I nominate you.
What?
Right,
I think you should go, Bethany.
Alright, lately I've been listening to a multitude of video game soundtracks. My wife has been streaming Final Fantasy XII International, so I've been listening to a lot of that, which has gotten me going back into Final Fantasy Tactics A2, another Hitoshi Sakamoto composed work. And I've also been listening to Shovel Knight, which I recently purchased, and the sound.
Yes!
I've heard that soundtrack is just horrible.
It is absolutely amazing, and it led me to, Vert posted today, he did a version of Guile's theme in the style of Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, and I don't think I've heard a better version of Guile's theme.
Wait, how did I miss that?
It's on YouTube, I'll link you guys.
Okay, good. I think I didn't hear that. Shovel Knight is extremely wonderful. One of those soundtracks that just gets better every time I listen to it. And that's a special thing.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's extremely well composed. I think it's Jake's best work thus far, but he just gets better and better with every single thing he does.
Jake Kaufman is one of those names that we end up mentioning in like literally every podcast.
Yes. Jake Kaufman and Grant Kirkhope get brought up at least once an episode.
Oh, there's both of them. Check that box off.
Yep.
Yeah.
And done.
Have you been listening to the arrangement album as well, or just the main soundtrack?
Just the main soundtrack. I try to digest the original songs before moving on to arrangement albums or
Fair enough.
sections. And I really, because he does almost all of his stuff exclusively in like Family Tracker and whatnot, I try and listen to that, and then if he makes it available, get the Family Tracker files for it to see how he composed it. Since I love learning compositional techniques by stripping down how he did it.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, Bryan has been doing like a ton of that recently. Not like, especially for the new theme song we just made,
right?
Which is based after an Animal Crossing song. You liked the song before you started doing that, but once you were forced to pick it apart and recreate it from scratch,
yeah,
all of a sudden you had this insight that I'm very glad you did that. Or I don't know if we would have gotten through that entire episode.
Yeah,
really.
Which song from Animal Crossing did you do?
It was 8 p.m. from Animal Crossing Wild World.
Oh, very nice. It's a great.
Yeah.
That's a great song.
Absolutely, the accordions are amazing. That's one of the best parts.
Well, I mean, if you like accordions, there's nothing wrong with the Atelier series. There's a lot of accordion in that too. So.
Oh yeah, I'm only vaguely familiar with that musical.
But I've rambled on long enough. Bethany's done talking now.
All right, Andrew.
Mostly, I mean, playing a lot of Mario Kart 8. Of course, that soundtrack is ridiculous. So, been
oh my gosh, yes.
quite a bit. I think the best part about the game, besides the visuals and like just the core gameplay, is the fact that they turned the sound effects way down finally, and the music way up.
Wait, they did? Did they patch it?
Well, compared to the Wii version, it's been crazy. There is a patch coming out, but I mean, right now, like the sound effects are pretty minor compared to the actual music, which is really like a nice touch. And also, Pokemon Black and White.
Yeah.
Pretty good stuff there. Like I've got like a kind of a collection of my favorite tracks, that were basically just like ripped from the DS itself. So I'm not sure the actual names, they're just numbered, but they're just really good stuff in that soundtrack.
I heartily enjoyed that particular Pokemon soundtrack.
Wait a minute.
For some reason
you've heard Black and White?
Yeah, I mean, not like extensively, but I really like the stuff that I've heard.
Yeah, 'cause we didn't ever
I didn't play the game.
Yeah.
No.
It's not like I play Pokemon or anything.
Don't get me wrong. Pokemon is only my life for several years.
Yeah. Don't get me started, please. I just finished getting my live Pokedex done, as in I have all 718 Pokemon in my box right now.
Oh my.
Wait,
what? Oh gosh.
Really, yeah, that's too impressive, actually. I think we started
Ask
to
him what
cross.
his next goal is.
That's what his next goal is.
You probably don't want to. It's kind of frightening.
But yeah, so Mario Kart 8 and Black and White, and then I've been playing Shovel Knight as well. So like the music there is also very good.
Fantastic. Do you have a favorite track yet, or have you not made up your mind?
I don't know what the name of the song is, but it's from the very first stage.
Yes.
It's super heroic. It's super like has a great mood to it. It flows really well. That's the one that I keep going back to. I have the Bard play it for me, which is weird because the Bard tells you the song name, but I can't remember it offhand.
I think it's Strike the Earth.
You were correct.
It's kind of like the theme song arranged into a whole level.
Yeah, I had to play the game, so I'm like saving the soundtrack and tell them, but that is the one song I heard because it was on a podcast I listened to, and it's awesome.
Same here.
Yeah, it is well worth playing the game. Like you don't even need to play the game, but the game itself is also phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So is that pretty much it on your music list right now, or anything else special?
For the time being, and speaking of Gerdt, since we need to reach our quota,
okay.
He's doing the music for a Kickstarter for a 3DS and I think like Oculus Rift game. It's 3D. The game is supposed to be in 3D.
Okay.
And he released the theme song for free, and like the opening theme song sounds like sort of like a space opera Gundam type soundtrack, and it's good vocalist, and the song is so good. I've probably listened to it like 100 times by now.
That I had not yet listened to that, but I'm very, very curious.
Yeah, well, I'll get you a link to it so you can put it in your show notes so people can hear it, because people need to hear it. Cause like
one day we should get Jake Kaufman on our program and not talk about his music at all.
You're gonna go back on that within 5 seconds of having him on the show.
Or just do it where you're like, yeah, I don't know this artist, but man, this from this game, it's so good.
Never heard of this Brit guy. I don't know.
I just want to talk about his dog the whole time. I'm sure he'd love that.
Oh, he would absolutely. He loves Nugget.
Yep.
You know, there is an album named after Nugget. I think that's enough to convince you of that.
Yeah.
Good point.
So, Dia, what's been up with your music listening habits?
So today I got roped into losing at Mario Kart 8 quite a bit.
Okay, that's cool. I'm really good at that.
I'm beyond terrible at the Mario Kart game, so it was fun, but the music is good. And I don't know, I do a lot of listening on random. Way to put down your keys.
Yep.
Same thing with watching Andrew play the first level of Shovel Knight and enjoying that music.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I've actually been doing a lot of random listening as well. Bryan finally taught me about smart playlists in iTunes, which I didn't know about until like last week. So now I can listen to all my good music at once, which is cool.
And still keep all the rest of the music on there anyways.
Yeah, because it needs to be there. It's history.
Yeah, I really need to get a bigger iPhone, but that's a whole other topic. Yeah, I've been listening to that Night song on loop.
Oh, good for you.
You don't say. Tell me more.
I think we'll go ahead and go on to that because I haven't been listening to much else. So.
Oh, I guess you don't care what I've been listening to.
I thought you finished. What else? Go ahead.
Well, I did want to mention one other thing.
Okay.
Which is something actually
the rest of the podcast. So please.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. In the car.
Yep.
When we were both driving in that vehicle today, we were listening to the Kirby 64 soundtrack.
That's true.
And I just wanted to give another shout out to that. I think we might have talked about it last week. But I want to clear the air once and for all. I'm sorry for belittling it.
Yeah, we had a whole episode on Kirby, and you're like, Kirby 64 is not very good soundtrack.
It is very good. I'm sorry, my past self was uninformed.
Okay, I want you to go back and play the clips back to back of what you were saying then and what you're saying now.
Oh, jeez. Not only does that work, but it makes me look bad. All right.
Fair point. The soundtrack is good. The visuals are good. The gameplay is a little lacking. The final boss is nightmare fuel.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep. You are correct on all points, Bethany. I could not have said it better myself. I swear I will stop that joke. Yes.
Don't stop.
But other than that,
I thought of something I've been listening to now.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
The Wrath of the Lich King theme song from World of Warcraft.
Oh, yeah.
Is that because the new trailer came out?
No, actually, I'm just kind of always listening to Warcraft music, and recently I've been listening to Wrath of the Lich King. And
well, that's funny because nobody who plays World of Warcraft listens to the music, so you're one of the few.
That is not true. I mean, it's mostly true, but
yes.
When Wrath of the Lich King was out, I specifically made a point because it was like music was winning awards. When I was playing through it, I had music turned on, and like Lich King specifically had some amazing songs.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's one song, Andrew would know it by name, but there's a trumpet player, and he plays, having played trumpet, the notes he plays and the volume he plays them at is possibly impossible, except this guy's doing it. So
basically what she's getting at is it's an insanely high trumpet note, really, really quietly. It's from Wintergrasp when it's kind of peaceful out. And
right.
It's my favorite World of Warcraft song ever, and I've listened to it like ridiculous amount of times. But yeah, like awesome. Lich King specifically, that whole soundtrack was very, very well done.
Yeah, he's listened to that Vert song 100 times. He's listened to the Wintergrass peacefully 1,000 times.
When I have to find something good, I internalize it.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's the way to go about it. I mean, I guess I've been listening to World of Warcraft music too since I'm just playing the game. But
it is. They've really been bringing it to the soundtracks, especially ever since like Burning Crusade.
Well, ever since Russell Brower.
Exactly. Ever since Russell
As
Brower
far
was
as
you're working
I'm
not
concerned.
that Jason Hayes wasn't awesome, but
Oh no, Jason Hayes is an incredible individual.
and former guest of the show. That was awesome. But
yeah, that was amazing.
But yeah, he is amazing. Just Russell Brower's stuff is less atmospheric and more melodic, so sometimes it's memorable in different ways.
Agreed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just to pimp something out, if you guys know Jillian Aversa,
Yes.
she's
Of course.
been touring with Video Games Live recently, and I know she does the Song of the Highborn?
Oh yeah.
Lament of the Highborn.
Yep.
Yeah, she does that during their show, so.
That's so awesome.
Oh, man, I want to go to that so much.
We went to Video Games Live when they had a special like Blizzard festival where there was just like all Blizzard music before the show, and that was amazing. Like hearing the intro cinematic of Wrath of the Lich King was fantastic.
I bet. Wow.
Yep, I still regret not getting Russell Brower's autograph when I was there, but oh well.
There were very long lines.
I have a few regrets, and that is one of them. All right then. So that's what we've been listening to, right, Steven? You're all done now?
Yeah, I think that's it. We covered a lot of it on the last show.
So, what is all of your background with Knights?
I'm gonna wait to go for this one because I'm gonna be a long time.
All right, Andrew.
I've played probably about 3 hours of it. And
it's almost enough to beat it.
Just about, yeah. I mean, I did not beat it. I first saw it at like a game kiosk at a store, and it looked pretty sweet and played it a little bit, and then a friend had it and I played it. At the kiosk they had the sound turned off completely so we didn't get to hear the music. And then, a friend, we were listening to something else, so it wasn't until actually OverClocked ReMix when I started hearing remixes that I actually got introduced to the music.
Right.
Through remixes. I heard a couple remixes. One was by McVaffe about the museum theme.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And after hearing that, I went onto YouTube and listened to the whole soundtrack, and that was my initial thing. And then later on, Sivo invited me onto his Knights project, and then I did my first remixing of it. I also played the Wii version, but yeah, I don't remember much because it was somewhat traumatic.
Yeah.
Exactly my experience.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Dia?
I helped on a remix of it.
You've not played it.
No, I have not played Knights.
Did you even ever own a Saturn?
Nope.
Why would you own a Saturn unless you're playing Knights? So I guess.
Yeah, I was about to say that's.
No, our family was strictly Nintendo growing up, and then got PlayStation because of Final Fantasy VII, as many people probably have done the same. So, did not go the Sega route.
Gotcha.
Well, I mean, I think not having played Knights is fair enough. It is on Steam now, and on I think PlayStation Network. Yeah. Maybe Xbox.
It's on Xbox Live and PlayStation Network.
Right.
There's no excuse now to have not played.
So now, I mean, now it's easier to get into, but especially even just a few years ago, if you didn't have a Saturn, you probably didn't play Knights. And even if you did play Knights, you probably didn't understand it, because, man, it's a weird game.
Yeah. And as we had talked about before, the amount of backlog of games that I have is pretty bad.
Her backlog is pretty legendary.
Oh, I am that way with a lot of different games as well, and I often feel bad about it, but hey.
Well, it's especially bad when you host, a video game music podcast, and you have to keep telling people, no, I've never really played Chrono Trigger or Chrono Cross or Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There are always gaps.
I haven't played Earthbound, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're not missing much on the music on that one, though.
Okay, good.
I'm just saying, but that is just my opinion.
But anyways.
All right.
So, Steve-O, how about you and NiGHTS? What is your relationship?
Oh boy, here we go. I got a Sega Saturn for Hanukkah in 1995, I think.
Okay.
My Hanukkah present that later that year was NiGHTS with the 3D analog controller, and it took me a month to beat the first level of NiGHTS. It is not an easy to understand game whatsoever. And even when you do get it, it's still quite difficult to, especially with the level of 3D visuals. I mean, they did the best they could on that system, but it's just, it was still a bit of a horror show. Yeah. The colors and the artwork designs were gorgeous, though. NiGHTS was one of the first albums of video game music I listened to on a CD player, thanks to Redbook Audio. I own the original. I own Christmas NiGHTS on the Sega Saturn. I own the Japanese PlayStation 2 import. I own it on PlayStation Network and on Steam. I directed the NiGHTS Lucid Dreaming OC Remix album, so I've got a bit of history with the soundtrack.
Yeah, dude, tell them about the pajamas.
With the purple pants? That's another time. I don't want to go into it.
I hate it when our guests ask other guests to tell them about pajamas, and then those guests don't.
I know it happens like every other episode. It's great.
All right, you know what? When you get DJP on here, ask him about PAX East 2011.
Okay, I'll write that down.
Make a note.
Make a note. Anyways,
make a note here.
So NiGHTS and Reala is specifically, it means a lot to me because that was one of the first 2-player games I played on the Sega Saturn. NiGHTS is a single-player game, but once you beat Reala, you unlock a 2-player versus mode, and my brother, who's 4 years younger than me, he and I would just do the NiGHTS versus Reala over and over and over again.
Wow. Who's better at it?
Me, all the time.
Okay.
Because I was the one that ended up beating the game and not him.
So if I remember correctly, the version that plays in the Versus is the version we did not play on
Correct.
the show today, right?
Theme of a Tragic Revenge is the one in the Versus. But it's still, like, listening to it, I would always listen to that version and say, I like the other one better. I've remixed the NiGHTS and Reala for Lucid Dreaming. I collaborated with Avaris and Prophetik, and it's sort of a rock, metal, jazz, industrial fusion. It's a really weird mix of genres, but I felt I did it justice, and it is my second favorite song on the soundtrack.
What's your favorite?
My favorite is Growing Wings. The song that plays on
that's wonderful.
The Twin Seeds level. It is. Yep. That song will always make me feel like flying, and just because of how well it is. If it wasn't just the perfect flying composition, NiGHTS and Reala would have been number one.
Yeah. I think for me, it's always been Suburban Museum.
Oh,
yeah, Museum for me.
And that was actually the one song I've covered from NiGHTS, and it just always, ever since Steven pointed it out to me, like, he was the one to really get into NiGHTS between us first. We both played it a little bit, but kind of lost interest early on. He went back to it, and he's like, check out this museum level. I'm listening to the music. I'm like, okay. And it was pretty ridiculous. I wrote that song.
Yeah.
That's one of those songs that immediately puts me into this peaceful mindset.
Oh, yeah.
Like, right away until it ends.
I'm next week I'll be a 29-year-old man, and I will openly admit that the chord resolution during the last 20 seconds of Suburban Museum, I think it's the spicy version, has made me tear up every single time I've listened to it. It is just that gorgeous.
It is. Yeah. I'll agree there. I only had tears, but I understand. I know that feel, bro.
Yeah. Just when those chords just flow just so perfectly, it's like you mentally, subconsciously expected it, but you didn't expect it consciously, and it just makes you feel all warm inside.
Yeah. It goes right to the heart.
Yes.
Yep.
And actually, interesting tidbit, jumping back to the what was the remix called? The Nemesis Schema?
Yeah, Nemesis Schema, yep.
That's actually the song that pushed me over the edge to include this NiGHTS and Reala song for this episode, because I knew we were having Steve on, and I knew I wanted to
Bethany.
Bethany.
Oh, I'm sorry. I knew we were having Bethany on the show, and I knew that Andrew and Dia had also worked on that album.
Yeah.
And that's out of all the NiGHTS music, that is the song that I think is short enough to just sit there and listen to the whole thing.
Daunting is a lot of NiGHTS music, because it's like 10 minutes when you get all the very...
Yeah, and that's awesome, but I thought it might be a bit of a beast to tackle. But that one's fairly short, but just packed with stuff. So much stuff. So I thought that'd be a good one to choose.
So let's go ahead and play for everyone our song this week, NiGHTS and Reala from Nights into Dreams, composed by Naofumi Hataya.
Well, it's not night.
That was a great song.
So that was NiGHTS and Reala from Nights into Dreams. Now, my first question for you all here is, does anyone know what he's saying at the beginning?
Well, it's not night.
Yes, it's nonsensical dream language.
Okay, I always heard it as there is no nights.
Yes, and that is such a persistent legend about the game that they've sort of made it canon. Well, I mean, have you played Journey of Dreams?
I did a long time ago, and I kind of blocked it all out.
There are some allusions to it in the game script itself. It's never fully mentioned, but they allude to it because that game they speak perfect English. But all of the language done in the original Nights was in Dreamspeak, so it's all completely nonsensical. I think it's Baidicho Nights, so it means absolutely nothing.
So yeah, let's get on to the meat of talking about it here. Anything just jump out about the song to any of you?
Immediately at the beginning, besides the voice, just that opening 8-chord super dissonant, like it doesn't fit with any real chord progression. That is just it's like a car wreck. It grabs your attention no matter what you're doing. And from that moment on, like the moment it has your attention, it's so brief that, you're like, huh, what's going on? Like 2 seconds, and then suddenly, bam, right into the meat of the song. And like Andrew said, when he was listening to it, he's like, yeah, all right, I'm grooving to this.
Yeah, and how they like it's like this orchestra hit song that's done at such a high pitch and so rapidly. You don't hear that very often.
Right. You know, normally you hear orchestra hits, stuff like Konami used to accentuate, specific changes, like the beginning of a measure, or when stuff goes to, was it the tonic, I think. I'm using advanced music words that I don't
you're getting
really
out
know.
of my level here. You're getting out of my depth a little bit, but I can pretend.
Does a lot of his own level here too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, that's not normally done. Orchestra hits never sound good in that quick of a succession.
No, not to play like a melody alone like that. That's like a really interesting way to do it. But it was brief enough that it kind of just caught you off guard before jumping into the main song.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree that it's not like, I don't necessarily like that part, but it gets your attention, then it's done, and then from there on out, it's like, I'm wondering if, I'd have to probably look up their history, the composer, like the initial, like, kind of groove that they set, and like the rhythm that they're using them, like in the guitars, sounds really similar to a lot of like Sonic Adventure type writing.
Yeah.
I think Naofumi Hataya, I'm gonna look up his stuff. He's done Space Channel 5, he did stuff for Sonic the Hedgehog CD, he did...
Sonic's team just has a distinct sound in this era.
Definitely.
Yeah. And it shares a lot of that.
Hey, speaking of Sonic Adventure,
I think sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Just a side note, is there any amount of money I could pay you guys at OC Remix to make a full album about Sonic Adventure music? Any underhand dealings?
Oh my gosh, I would love that so much.
I'm willing to do anything for that. Anyway, we can talk about Night some more. Just want to put that out there. You can talk to me after the show.
Yeah.
When we're not rolling.
The piano
in the
part.
back room in 5 minutes.
Exactly.
Wow, this is going to be a short podcast. So the piano part also reminds me a lot of some stuff in Sonic Adventure. That kind of jazzy, fast-paced.
Yeah, definitely.
And it must be said that this is one of my favorite piano solos in a video game, maybe just in life.
Yep. For sure.
I would not disagree with you there. The groove that it sets is really, really catchy.
So something interesting I thought about this song is like this. I think in a lot of other contexts, this song wouldn't necessarily sound like evil. It's more of jazz, but NiGHTS is using it in a context where it's the villain's theme.
Right.
And I think that's... Go ahead.
I think one reason they're able to get away with that is because all the other bosses in the game were these nightmarish monstrosities that were much larger than you in purely, what were they called? The
Nightmaren.
Nightmaren, there you go. It's kind of explicit in the name. But Reala, is sort of like your Shadow the Hedgehog to your Sonic the Hedgehog. He's your rival.
Yes.
He's not just a villain. You feel like he's maybe an antagonist who may join your side someday.
Well, something else I thought about it is NiGHTS using something that would go into like a pentatonic or a minor scale. It's like those are often darker scales, like blues and rock is not used in the primary soundtrack of NiGHTS. So it's almost like even using a genre like blues and rock for NiGHTS is going into the darker side of music.
Good point.
Yep. That is... go ahead.
I was going to say, the composition of the song is very interesting when you delve into the fact that there's a lot of shared motifs that go throughout the entire soundtrack. That opening 8-chord orchestra hit is, if I remember correctly, considered to be Reala's melody. So that in and of itself is, that's the super evil, that is your shadow right there. And then suddenly it gets into that jazzy section, the super upbeat. It still feels confrontational, but it's ecstatic enough that you still feel NiGHTS' influence, because NiGHTS is this really goofy, unpredictable, almost like a cartoon character. Mm-hmm. So even in facing down what should be your greatest rival, you still have that feeling of hopefulness and that this is still going to be fun.
Well, what I absolutely love is when they bring in the NiGHTS theme. Mm-hmm. At the end, it sounds almost like it's battling against the piano.
Yeah, and they modulate it in a way that it's not like it's familiar enough, but it's not exactly the same because the situation is different.
That's a little twisted. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep. The last I think like 30 seconds of the song, right before it starts to get to the fade out, they take that motif and they run through it once, and the final note of it is off by one step lower, and it makes it sound really wrong. But then they repeat it and they do it correctly. So you have the incorrect version, Reala's off Knight's melody, and then the correct Knight's melody, and it is literally a melody battle.
Good point. They even put it heavily in channel left and then heavily in channel right.
Yep.
So it's very much like a battle between the two.
Absolutely.
I think I've been realizing that subconsciously for years, but spelling it out like that makes that really a brilliant idea.
Yep.
That's very cool. And to jump from the end of the song to the beginning of the song, how we talked about the intro of those weird orchestra hits. Mm-hmm. It's kind of upsetting and launches you into the song. Mm-hmm. Then there's sort of that jazzy intro. It's like, okay, this is going to be fun, but I really appreciate how they pull it back for a second, kind of bring back those orchestra hits and kind of delay it. And then they go into the song. Melody? Yeah. So it's like, it has a really nice intro to it. Mm-hmm. Like, well, this is going to be a good song.
And then there's the transition very clearly to the primary refrain. Yep.
Exactly.
And then they repeat those same orchestra hits right before the final section of the song, for the, what you'd consider the coda. Right before it gets into that off Knight's melody and the proper Knight's melody, they bring back those 8 orchestra hits. And that's after pulling the song back even farther, and they have this really sort of chill backbeat drum area.
Oh, the bass solo?
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's really yep. And bass solos don't get a lot of love.
No.
They did that one pretty well. Yeah, it's not as good as the piano solo, but very little else could be.
Nah, that's absolutely true. I mean, not even like the guitar solo stuff in the other version is as good as the piano solo. So
right, and also just a quick side point is that the song itself, like if you look at the actual boss environments, like the stuff for whenever Deep It Lies plays, that really sort of weird disco reflective underwater boss area, and then the guy who does the mantle, I forget his name.
The jester guy with the cards.
Yes,
Jackal.
Yep.
I do not know Knight's name, boss name. So.
Yeah, Reala's environment is by far the most evil looking and oppressive. That red mountainous space arena. It's very evil looking. So I think it sort of balances that you don't have as evil sounding of a song throughout.
That's true. Yeah, they also they want the song to be really high energy because they're supposed to be excited about this fight. It's the most fluid and fast fight in the game. So they don't want it to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm facing this mountainous evil so much as I am pumped to face off against this guy.
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
So pulling it back a bit, Dia, what did you think of this song overall as someone who hasn't played the game before?
Oh, that's a good point.
Definitely fast-paced. I would say, like, if I was listening to it out of the blue, not knowing it was Knights, I'd probably put it in with a boss battle or some kind of, like, racing something at the end before something else happens. So they definitely do a good job in conveying that tension.
That's a good point.
Putting it to you that, something big is going on and you need to get amped up for it.
Exactly. I feel like the only time the song really lets up at all is possibly during that bass solo.
Yeah.
And it's still a pretty intense bass solo, so the song doesn't let up a whole lot, but yeah,
it kind of takes a breath, like those orchestra hits in between the piano solos, but never totally slows down.
Speaking of comparing it to a racing game, I would totally play a Knights racing game.
The level design is almost like a racing game in Knights.
Why don't you just play Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed?
There you go.
I do, and I love it, but there's only one Knights character, so... Oh no, Reala's in there. There are 2. All right, I guess that's fair.
So you could race Knights against Reala.
Totally, in the Knights stage.
There's a Knights stage also, or partly Knights stage in Sonic Riders, so you have a lot of Knights racing to do, Steven.
You're right. I guess I don't need to complain so much. So here's a question, though, and I'm infamous for missing the smaller background elements of the song. Okay. But although we talked a bit about the bass, and although the piano tends to steal the show, and the orchestra hits do as well, whether
are we talking about the kazoo?
No, this is not a Grant Kirkhope arrangement.
Oh, right.
I'm just talking about the drums and all the little stuff going on in the background. Do you think that that's a strong element of the piece, or is it in the background for a reason?
I think personally, so basically the drums, what's happening is there's a lot of loops that are having small parts layered on for certain sections and then taken away for others. I think there's so much going on that there's something's gotta give. And I think, while the drums, I feel, as far as writing, are the weakest element.
Agreed.
They give the energy to the track. And if they were going full bore like everything else, there wouldn't be enough room. It would just,
if there were a bunch of tom fills and stuff.
Yeah, they keep the variety there, but typically the beat stays the same throughout, and they just add or remove some higher, hand percussion elements, depending on the section. So it's not just one single sound the whole time, but the beat is very consistent. And, it's got that, it's got the kick on the 1 through 4, and then it has, the upbeat hi-hat, where, it hits on the and. So it definitely has a very electronic sound to it. I think it was chosen specifically for a reason to not take precedence over the rest of the track. I think if it was a full-on, acoustic kit with a drummer, and a more composed feel to it, that it would be too prominent in the track would lose energy, and the other elements it'd be one more thing to fight for the spotlight.
Yeah, it is a very busy track, and I actually noticed the same thing as I was listening to it, and I'm like, these drums don't blow me away. I listen to a lot of other Sega music, especially Sonic Adventure stuff, and I'm like, these drums are really good, and the composition of these seemed kind of, simple in background, but I think that suits the song. They're kind of complex, but they aren't loud.
Right. Yeah, Andrew, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head saying that something had to give. It's not that the drums are bad or even underwhelming. They can't be the hero. There's too much.
I didn't notice it until I listened for it, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And it's always interesting to hear your perspective on it, Andrew, because correct me if I'm wrong, but you're still on the OC Remix panel of judging music, right?
I am, as is Dia. We are both judges.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's right. You do it as well, Dia. I totally forgot about that.
Totally.
So both of you guys, let's say that this song was submitted, this quality of music, what would be your reservations for putting it on the site, or would you have any?
We would probably make mention of the drums, but everything else is so on. I definitely would be like, what's up with those orchestra hits?
Yep.
But really, definitely, it would make the site. It would make the site, no question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would hope so.
Yeah, you could probably mute a few things and it'd still make the site based on the piano.
Yeah.
Something interesting I noticed is I'm listening to a bit of the Nemesis Schema, and it uses a little more traditional of a drum kit with it. So if you kind of want to hear what it would sound like, and you'd be able to speak more to this, Bethany, because you made this song.
Thank you.
But it does sound a bit more like a traditional drum kit playing to it.
Yeah, but before I forget, just one small note. I kind of agree with you guys that the drums in it, they can't be the dominant because there's so much else fighting for dominance throughout the mix. But if you listen to it, the same loop that plays in NiGHTS and Reala is also the loop that plays in Message from Nightopia. The exact same loop.
Really?
Yes,
That's
the exact
neat.
same kick, snare, 16th note, tambourine, which, by the way, Andrew and I are both very on for tambourine. We both love tambourine in our mixes.
Yep, tambourine, you'll hear it in pretty much every one of our mixes ever in some
Tamba
form.
Bros for life.
Yep.
But yeah, for the Nemesis Schema, the original thing, and I could probably take a screenshot of the project file if I can ever get Sonar working again, but I used Addictive Drums at the time to render, I think, 6 different drum kits. So while you hear a lot of variation in it, it's loop based. So there's a whole lot of different kits playing at any given time, and they, depending on how many are playing, what they're playing, how they're panned, in the Nemesis Schema, it adds a similar feel to it. Like, it still feels kind of sequenced, kind of predictable, kind of, these aren't drums that you recorded in a studio, but they all have really interesting timbre elements to it.
Yeah, I'm listening to someone. I really like it, actually. I think the song can be helped by a more active drum roll in it. And yeah, I especially like the part where it's kind of like, hitting the same note multiple times when you kind of headphone it in guitar solo and how the drums are playing along to that. It sounds really good. So.
Yep. Also, one thing I have to point out, because it hasn't been mentioned yet, but in this song, that brass.
Oh man, you're right. I can't believe it took us this long.
Yeah, it might be my ska roots, but even if you can tell, it's not the highest quality brass samples out there. It's just so peppy.
Brass is really hard to get synthesized, especially at this stage of video games, to sound right. So, I think they did a pretty good job of at least mixing it into the song well.
Right. In general, I think the entire Nights into Dreams soundtrack was phenomenal at faking stuff.
Oh yeah.
To the point where you almost wouldn't want live instruments to be introduced.
Like, he was owning the fact that it was fake. Like, it sounded good that it was fake, in a weird way. Like, Suburban.
Well, but, yeah, point in case,
Point in
case in point, all of the above, when you moved on to its,
successor.
Its successor that may or may not be a good game, depending on who you ask.
Right.
That went for a much more traditional, flowing, orchestral style. It was very pretty.
Mm-hmm.
It did not match the energy of the original Nights. I can't help but to wonder how much of that is because they were intent on using live instruments for a lot of it.
Yeah.
Instead of, just going with the synthesized stuff, which is, it kind of like the original Soul Calibur had more energy than some of the later ones because it was just so into that Yamaha keyboard or whatever it was using at the time.
Andrew, first thing, let's settle this. I think Andrew and I agree. When it comes to Journey of Dreams, art design and music top-notch, controls, visuals, and story, you can go right in the gutter.
I would agree. Like,
I'm mostly there.
Yeah, and that's all because they decided to shift development, with only, a year remaining to the Shadow the Hedgehog engine on the Wii.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, there's a huge backstory about that. But anyway, this is a really interesting discussion to have. And the way I also liken this to is that if you listen to the original Final Fantasy Tactics and then Final Fantasy XII, same composer, same general style, but the original Tactics, because of the low quality samples, there's this attack to it where it doesn't sound real, but it sounds more spot on, more enthusiastic.
For sure. And this is an interesting discussion that we actually had at length. We had an episode on the switch from synthesized to live instrumentations in games.
That's right.
And yeah, it's a really good topic that has a lot to it because it's not just an idea of music progressing. There is something that changes with that progression. So.
Right.
Are you guys very familiar with Soul Calibur, the whole series of music?
I am. I've played all of them, and I've listened to the music really extensively.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, didn't you do a remix from 5? Was that you?
Yep, I did Zvi's theme.
That was really cool, not only because it was a great song and a great arrangement of it, but because no one else does that. Like, no one pays attention to Soul Calibur music when it comes to remixing, I feel, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah, I definitely thought, the earlier ones had that sort of, energy and punch that the later ones, while a lot of the themes were really similar, it felt a little too meandering melodically to be a fighting game, where, as a direct example, like Guilty Gear, where it's all about, the melody. Like, you could take, a Guilty Gear song and do it in an orchestra, arrangement, and it would still have a ton of energy based on how the melodies are written.
Yeah. Yeah, Duelists was such a fantastic song in the original Soul Calibur for that reason, I think.
But I think that the Dreamcast Soul Calibur and Nights into Dreams both did the thing where you wonder if an orchestra could possibly keep up with that. And Soul Calibur would be like, dun, 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 dun. It's like, wait, that was with a full orchestra doing that. It didn't sound real at all.
Right.
But it did sound awesome.
Yeah. And
I also would personally say, Soul Calibur-wise, I like the first one because the narrator did not sound nearly as hackneyed as he does in later games.
I guess you have a point there.
But yeah, no, I also agree that the soundtrack for the Soul Calibur, like the Dreamcast and arcade version, is just there's no way it's realistic, but the compositions are so strong as to embrace the unrealistic aspects.
Absolutely. So, anyone have any closing notes about NiGHTS and Reala? Anything we haven't covered?
Well, I will say that it's the song that most makes me wish I could play the piano.
Yep.
It would take many, many years for me to get that good, but
the key is
if
play
I could
it slow and then speed it up.
There you go. You know how to do it.
They actually have a sheet music for Nights into Dreams. They have a whole piano book.
Really? Sega put that out?
Yeah, it's an official. It's Japanese, and I think the going rate for it now it's like $80 to $100. But I'm sure they have scans somewhere online. But yeah, if you really wanted to, they've got the piano solo for NiGHTS and Reala.
Yeah.
Well, clearly this is my calling.
Yep.
Oh, good point.
It's normal music notation.
Yeah.
But closing, it's just in general, it's an extremely complex and deep song with a lot of layers that you can dissect and find each and every one of them being very high quality, except for the drums, and that's because something needs to give.
There you go. You just summed up our. See, we could have just said that.
Yeah.
Why did we
do
do this stupid podcast? I just wasted 40 minutes.
Why is this even a thing?
I don't know. What are we doing? Take it down. Take the site down.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. I'm always here.
You are, but
sure.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I mean, like the song is like, I guess my one last thing about the song itself.
Yeah, go ahead.
That everything is so packed and like concise. Like there's so much going on, but it's like there's nothing wasted, like time wise. Like the arrangement, they're just fitting as many ideas as they can at once. So like even if you like it goes to like the breakdown at like the 1 minute or like it changes a section and it's like, wow, all that my brain is processing is like has only been in the first minute. Usually like a lot of times that's just like the intro to songs.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
we covered a
that's
lot
super
over
true.
time.
And just a side note, just because we do it, Overclocked University does do a live version from the Lucid Dreaming. We don't do Nemesis Schema, but we do Twin Seas Flyby.
All right.
Awesome.
And yeah, that's something I wanted to ask you all before we go here. Is there anything you're working on or want to plug? Go ahead, Bethany.
Well, actually, I'm going to let Andrew, because the first EP was more of my arrangements than Andrew's, and the second EP is going to be more of Andrew's arrangements than mine, so I'm going to let Andrew talk about it.
Yeah, all right. We got some, so what's coming up for the second EP, is a good mix of popular and obscure stuff. We've got a Turrican mix that's pretty sweet, that no one's heard yet, but it's actually finished. So we just need to, I'm not sure when we'll debut that one, but the song itself is done. Got a, pretty good, League of Legends, which is, it's pretty rockin'. It's got,
oh, that's fantastic.
and then some of the stuff we've been playing live, a couple of vocal tracks, featuring, Stevo and then our, one of our other band members, Amy, on vocals. So we got some good stuff coming up for that EP.
Awesome. Yeah, that's, and where should we look if we want to be there day one when this drops?
You can follow us on either Facebook or Twitter, and we have a Bandcamp page, where you can purchase our first EP if you're so inclined.
Yes, the Facebook is, if you just go to facebook.com and look up Overclocked University. Twitter, we are at Overclocked Uni. We are Overclocked University at bandcamp.com, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And,
awesome.
And yeah, we have physicals of our first EP as well as digital versions. You know, as Andrew said, we're working on the second EP. We do play a couple live shows where you should, almost definitely be at MagFest regular this year. Not sure what else we'll be playing at. But yeah, that's mostly what we're working on right now.
That's excellent. And if at all possible, Bryan and I are going to try to go to MagFest next time it pops up.
As you should.
We
have not been. So.
It's a good time, yeah. This will be my 7th, I think.
Oh, nice. Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, I think it's going to be my 8th.
Yeah, Steve was +1 on me.
Nice. Yeah, it's the kind of thing that I've always wanted to go to, but now that we're doing this show, I feel like we're obligated. Like, now we have a real excuse to actually buy the tickets.
Take that excuse, because it's a great time. You'll love it.
Brian, we need to make some t-shirts.
And I mean, even if you weren't part of something involved with gaming or game music, it's just a really good place to go and hang out and pick up street passes.
I hear so many good things about the street passes.
It's just a gigantic hangout with friends. Just a gigantic gaming hangout.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds awesome.
And also,
yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Overclocked University was born. Our first show as OCR Live, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It is.
Where we played with Wander on the Offensive and
Yep.
we horribly mixed, could barely hear anything.
Holding up a microphone to a violin is not.
Yes.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. But
That's amazing, man. Is that, like, archived somewhere?
I sure hope not.
Probably better off that it's not.
Someone's cell phone somewhere.
Now I think we actually started this in 2011 and spent 2 years, 2 or 3 years just getting more arrangements done by going to conventions. You know, we did that, and then we started doing some other OCR songs, and then we started writing our own arrangements to do there, which is how we ended up doing our DuckTales and Donkey Kong Country songs. And then right before we started doing our full show, that's when we came up with like Star Fox and Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross and all those other awesome songs.
Nice.
Chrono Cross was still for a panel.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah, Chrono Cross was for a panel. Was it Ico?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got confused.
we have a lot of songs.
We have a lot.
Yeah, I remember that Ica one. That was, I think, one of my favorites that you guys have done. That's pretty neat. So, but any other personal, like, any personal Twitter accounts, personal Facebook accounts you guys want to plug before we go?
Level 99. It's like Level 99 on Facebook, Level 99-ish on Twitter, but also before I go, I do want to pimp out, cause you mentioned before, I don't remember who was recording at the time, but, Andrew's, Phoenix Wright arrangements are among my favorites, so I'm gonna end off, just check, if you've never listened to Andrew's original stuff under OA, check out his Phoenix Wright arrangements. They are to die for.
It's funny you mention that Phoenix Wright arrangements, because there might be a Phoenix Wright Overclocked remix album in the works.
Oh.
I really want that to be true, Andrew. I
Is
really do.
he plugging something that, if he's lying about this, I'm going to be mad.
No, you'd be lying if he told you we're doing Sonic Adventure.
That dagger. That dagger.
Just twisted.
Yeah, okay, it is very early, but there is, and so you probably will need to wait a few years, but,
coming in 2017.
But there is I would say there is definitely going to be a Phoenix Wright Overclocked remix album.
As long as it happens within my lifetime, I'm happy. That is wonderful news.
And just don't die before then.
Be safe.
Yeah. All right. Neat. Anything else?
Andrew, you have Twitter or whatnot?
Yeah, my Twitter is OceansAndrew. And you can get some interesting tweets from me. I don't tweet super frequently, but when I do, it's usually related to game music and it has good stuff like songs that I found that I'm obsessing over.
Awesome. And Dia, how about you?
I'm gonna pimp something a little different because most of my songs are connected to their songs. Anyways.
Right.
Okay.
I do some crafting and I have an Etsy page. It's called DragonAvenger Crafts. So.
Oh, cool.
Crafts. Right now I'm kinda on hiatus because I'm moving from Connecticut to Minnesota, so all my craft stuff is packed up. But, I do a lot of, like, Pokemon, little drawstring bags, My Little Pony, Mario, Zelda, and I also take the little dancing solar flowers that you can get anywhere, and I make them piranha plants or fire flowers.
Hey, that's really neat.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
So,
yeah, I'll check that out for sure.
It should be back up, I want to say, about a month from now. And check that out.
All right.
Nice.
That is
And
a unique plug. We have not gotten that before. So.
Well, I'm gonna add an additional, more traditional plug. if you do want to listen to a song, a DragonAvenger official song that isn't connected to Andrew or Steve-O, I recommend looking up the, what's it called? The Armored Core Morning Thinker, I think.
Yes, that's what it's called. That was done with Other Soundscape. He did the entire OCR album. It's 11 songs, and it is very, very good.
Wow.
A fine installment to that. So that's just my personal recommendation, for DragonAvenger stuff.
I'm a thinker, I could break it down. I'm a shooter, a drastic baby. I'm a thinker, I could break it down. I'm a shooter, a drastic baby. I'm a thinker, I could break it down. I'm a shooter, a drastic baby. I'm a thinker, I could break it down. I'm a shooter, a drastic baby.
All right. Well, at risk of this being the longest outro ever, I'm gonna go through our stuff pretty quick here, but before I went into the full outro, I just wanted to say again, thank you all for coming. This was awesome. Bethany, thanks.
I'm really glad that we stuck with that this time.
Andrew, thank you.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
And Dia, thanks for coming.
Glad to be on.
Oh, you too, Steven.
No
My
problem.
good brother. All right, and if you want to email us, you can email us at trainstation8@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter at trainstation8. My personal Twitter is Lord Meldor. It's with 2 R's at the end. And Steven's is Stephen Kelly 180. I almost said 1080. I've been playing too much snowboarding recently. Train Station 8 is a part of Wales or Wales, which is a network of different podcasts with awesome shows like this with other awesome people like us. Check out Wales or
Maybe
Wales.
not like Steve, though. I'm not sure about that.
Oh, well, I meant you and me. But yeah, these people. Check out walesorwales.com, and that'll be it. Until
Hey, one extra little train station plug. I will say, we recently put a post on Facebook explaining a little more in depth why we decided to change up the format for season 2.
Right. Yes.
Yeah,
also, we should have a place up that you can find, download links to any songs we create on here, like the theme song we put together and stuff like that. So, yeah, on the SoundCloud. So you can check it out there. That'll be it. Thank you everyone for listening, and until next time, say goodbye to the monkey porter.
Nee, 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 nee.